What's up, everybody? Astros lose, Rangers win. What up? Okay. Today, I got a two-pack for you. A quick two-pack, though. Cowboys camp preview, counting down the positions. I decided on the defensive line that just doing one group of them might not be exciting enough, so we'll combine the defensive line into two different groups. I also got a little bonus content for you, delusional coaches syndrome. One of my favorite people, Hue Jackson, is in the news. You remember Hue Jackson? He was a coach of the Browns last year when they were getting just pop, slapped around every way in the world, and he wouldn't let his number one overall pick even take practice snaps with the first team to get ready for the season. And then they were terrible and awful and terrible and awful, and then they fired him, and then Baker immediately improved by like 20 points in QB rating and his completion percentage and his yards per attempt. The team got infinitely better, and they went 5-2 to end the season. Remember that, Hue Jackson? And then, and he went to the Bengals at midseason, and the Bengals, who I believe had a winning record when he showed up, went like 1-7 to end the year. That Hue Jackson said he did his best coaching while he was in Cleveland. Said, I did some of my best coaching. So he'd like another job. Come on, Hugh. I know there's delusional athlete syndrome. We can't have delusional coaches syndrome. There's one rule in sports. One rule. And that rule is own your stuff. I could probably cuss on here, huh? It's on the internet. Just own your stuff. Hey, I didn't do a good job. I'd love another shot. I think I can coach. Well, I thought I did some of my best work while our team was awful. And as soon as I left, we got good. And the next place that I went to, as soon as I got there, we were okay and got terrible. No, stop. Just the delusional coaching syndrome's got it. We got to stop it. We got to stop it. Hugh, just ask nicely for a job and say, I'd like to learn. And somebody teach me. And then I'm going to try my very best. Anyway, on to the Cowboys. Let's talk defensive line, as love the camp preview stuff. I'm a nerd, so for some reason I actually care about all 53 spots. Like, oh my God, who's going to be the 49th man on the roster? He could turn into something. Let's check it out. Let's figure this thing out. So, holy cow, the number of defensive linemen they're going to have to consider for the spots. And the first thing we got to start with is how many defensive linemen are going to make the roster. Last year, they broke camp with 10. Now, they did it in a really weird way. 4 of those guys were listed as D-ends, and 6 were listed as D-tackles. So last year when they broke camp, it was DeMarcus Lawrence, Randy Gregory, Taco Charlton, Dorrance Armstrong were your D-ends, Tyrone Crawford, who plays everything, Malik Collins, Brian Price, Antoine Woods, Dayton Jones, Daniel Ross. 10 dudes. So I'm going to start with 10. That's going to be my number. Who's going to make the Cowboys? Who's going to be the guys that matter on the defensive line? No problem. DeMarcus Lawrence, he'll make the team. Got it? And he'll be one of the best defensive players in football because that's what he does. Robert Quinn, welcome to the party, young man. He'll make the team. Tyrone Crawford, he'll make the team. Taco Charlton, he'll make the team. Dorrance Armstrong, he'll make the team. Now, I don't know what we want to call Tyrone Crawford. Depends where they're going to line him up this year. But there's no doubt 4 defensive ends, and I'll just call them ends. Tank, Robert Quinn, Taco, Dorrance. If you're looking for the breakout candidate out of those, you could go Quinn. I'll go Dorrance. I think Dorrance Armstrong went and took snaps from guys like Taco last year, and I think he'll do it again. He'll show. I heard our guy Pat Doney, who, by the way, I love Pat Doney on the radio. I think he's really good at it. Don't take my job, though, Pat. He's been talking up Dorrance Armstrong a lot, and I love that as the pick of one of the guys that's going to show up and be a baller. So 4 true defensive ends and Tyrone Crawford in. Malik Collins, 3 technique, in. Antoine Woods, nose tackle, in. Tristan Hill, 2nd-round pick, 3 technique, in. I got 8 defensive linemen, right? And we can talk expectations for those guys. One of the best things to watch in camp, one of the best storylines to me, not that it really matters. They could have them both play 50% of the snaps. You could play them next to each other or whatever. But Tristan Hill and Malik Collins, they got 2 guys there at the 3 technique. That's your defensive tackle who lines up over the guard, not between a center and guard. He's your pass rushing defensive tackle. The battle for those snaps will be really fun because Malik Collins is a solid player. He just keeps having foot problems. He keeps getting banged up, and I think they're not trusting him to get another contract is part of the reason they brought in Tristan Hill, to look for a guy who has some of those similar traits, but will now give you 4 cheap years in a salary cap league. So Tristan Hill versus Malik Collins is a really fun battle to watch. Now, for 2 spots that are left, if they're keeping 10 defensive linemen, we're keeping Tank, Quinn, Crawford, Charlton, Armstrong, Malik Collins, Antoine Woods, Tristan Hill. We're at 8. 2 spots left. Who's in the fight? I think you got to consider the two veterans that they brought in. Christian Covington, they brought in from the Texans. They list him as a D end on the website, but he's over 300 pounds. He's a defensive tackle. Kerry Hyder is another veteran that they brought in who in 2016 did have 8 sacks. Now, he missed a season due to injury, and he wasn't particularly effective last year. But as a young player in the league, he had 8 sacks, and it wasn't that long ago. So Christian Covington, Kerry Hyder. My guy Daniel Wise from the University of Kansas, he was a 3-4 defensive end at Kansas, but I loved his tape. I'm so excited that he's one of the dudes they snatched up in undrafted free agency. I don't know if he'll make it due to the numbers game, because they also drafted Hue Jackson, the defensive end, in what was that, the 5th round, when they took Hue Jackson and Michael Jackson, the corner and the defensive end. So Hue Jackson is in a fight for a roster spot. Jalen Jelks, their 7th round pick out of Oregon. I think he's a perfect practice squad candidate because you'd probably like to see him just physically grow a little bit to get ready to try to make a defensive end rotation a year from now. But maybe he surprises. Maybe he shows up and surprises a little bit. And Daniel Ross, who was here last year, is in competition for a spot to play defensive tackle on this team. So part of this is going to be that I've only named 3 true defensive tackles: Malik Collins, Antoine Woods, Tristan Hill. Is that enough? If Tyrone Crawford is sliding in there some, anybody interested in sliding Taco Charlton in to take some defensive tackle spots? I kind of am. I'm kind of curious how that looks. So for today, my 10-man defensive line prediction will be Tank, Quinn, Crawford, Charlton, Armstrong. Malik Collins, Antoine Woods, Tristan Hill. Just picking veterans is boring. Hyder and Covington, or Wise and Hue Jackson. I want to pick the young guys. And don't forget Daniel Ross. I need a D-tackle. Christian Covington's number 9. I don't want to do this. I want to put Daniel Wise on the team. I'll say Hue Jackson because he's a 5th round pick. Makes the team. That cuts Kerry Hyder. So this is it. I may not even give you an official prediction. But again, we did this at wide receiver the other day. Here's the best part about the Cowboys this year. What they're going to do is they're going to show up with more than enough guys that could make a football team. They're going to show up with more than enough guys that could play snaps in an NFL game, and those guys are just going to have to battle it out. I love what Brada said. Some guys are going to play their way onto the team. The other guys in camp will play their way off of the roster, and you'll just figure it out that way. So the defensive line group, much like the receiver group, I like it a lot because there's too many guys. Now, I'm not saying there's too many, hey, look at all these Pro Bowlers. I'm saying there's too many guys that can make the vast majority of the teams in the NFL, and you're going to have to figure out who can I get to a practice squad, who can I go without, which guys are actually going to be in my rotation. But I love that competition towards the end of the roster between guys like Christian Covington, Kerry Hyder, Daniel Wise, Hue Jackson, Jalen Jelks, Daniel Ross. You'd be really comfortable with any of those guys, or some or most of those guys being your 8th, 9th defensive lineman, and a couple of them just aren't going to make it. So that's the defensive line, and my salute to Hue Jackson this morning. Delusional coaching syndrome, one of my favorite things. All right, G-Bag Nation, make sure you're checking 1053thefan.com. By the way, Randy Gregory, saw the reports from Mike Fisher on 1053thefan.com that he will have his appeal, I believe he said today, where he's outlined his whole plan for how he could be reinstated, and he just needs Roger Goodell's approval. Roger, please don't be a jerk. Mental health's a real thing. Randy Gregory's a good teammate. He's a good dude. He's trying really hard. From all the people that I talked to, he's trying so hard to be a good teammate, to do the right things. We're real sorry that he's got a mental health situation, you know? And I'm really sorry that I do. Don't suspend me. I want to go do radio. Randy wants to play football and be a good teammate. Leave the dude alone, please. Help him, NFL. Don't take his paychecks and try to kick him off of his team. Help the dude. Got it? Get it? Got it? Good. All right, we'll see you here in about an hour and a half on G-Bag Nation. Love you guys. Check out the pages to subscribe to, but always check 1053thefan.com in the morning, as it has become your one-stop shop for sports content.